Welcome to Mighty Married Moms. Join us at our kitchen table twice a week as the Mighty Married Moms, Debbie, Linda, Wendy, invite spectacular guests to weigh in on staying sexy, vibrant, and healthy, building marriages with soul-satisfying connection, raising happy, healthy, successful kids. Conversations with Mighty Married Moms will bring you closer to the life you really want. Episode 15.
Hello everyone, welcome to Mighty Married Moms. We're back, it's Thursday, and we're just excited because we had a really good conversation with Mr. Bill Coffin.
Yep, excellent.
Isn't he great?
Yes, great.
Who's a senior fellow, literally senior according to him, a senior fellow at the Family Studies organization, and he actually does their 5 on Fridays, which is ways of putting out what they're doing, their studies, their social science studies on family life on Fridays, and kind of gives the world a heads up on what they're doing. And I just wanted to say that I thought he was amazing in terms of practical, and he's got years of wisdom and years of experience.
The wisdom, the deep wisdom. He has deep wisdom.
Yes, definitely.
Totally. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And and I got to confess, as a marriage educator, the name David Mace is new to me, and it probably shouldn't be, as being sort of the father of marriage education, which again is a difference between marriage therapy and marriage counseling.
Why don't you speak to that a little bit more, Wendy?
Yeah. Well, so in marriage therapy and marriage counseling, that is sort of the sickness model, if you will. That's a clinical model, and he spoke to that very articulately. Yep. He said he got his degree in marriage and family counseling, and he very quickly realized he did not want to be a clinician. He wanted to go into the world of education and enrichment. And building people's skills up, which is different from tell me your sad story, tell me what you're fighting about, tell me, and we'll try to patch you up.
Mm-hmm. Which doesn't. It seems like to me too that it's not that counselors and therapists don't educate or give good tools, because they do. Mm-hmm. But the model has always been, just like in the health industry, is you don't go to the therapist until you're in, crisis.
Right.
You're in crisis.
Right.
But you would think about going to a marriage educator not because you're in crisis, but because you just want to learn good skills. So you're kind of in a different place approaching it.
Right. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Exactly. And it doesn't. That's one of the things. It's a fairly new field, or it doesn't have enough exposure yet, where it doesn't occur to people to want to come. People don't sit around. They might say, I want to go to a new yoga instructor because I'm starting to sit on the couch a little too long, getting flabby, and I know that I've got a body, I need to take care of it.
Right.
So people understand that. In my world, is you got a relationship, you need to take care of it, and you need to learn some skills to do it well.
You know, it's interesting. I distinctly remember, I was born in 63, and somewhere around 69, I was, probably around 9 years old or something like that. Somebody came and stayed with us at our house. I don't remember now who it was. While my parents went away for the weekend, which they didn't usually do. And when they came back, they told me that they had gone to some marriage enrichment course. Uh-huh. So that was way back when. And I have no idea who sponsored that course, who taught it, where it came from, or anything like that. But I remember way back, somewhere around 1970 or so, my parents went to a marriage enrichment course.
Yep, for the weekend.
Yeah,
I think marriage enrichment is a faith. Literally, I could have it wrong. Faith-based.
It might be faith-based.
It could be, but regardless, marriage enrichment, little m, little e, versus a program called marriage enrichment, capital M, capital E.
Right.
But nonetheless, exactly, it is kind of like I say, it's a boost to how to do things well. And he reiterated, or he told us about the fact that he and his wife, when they had little kids, went to a parent training class, and he was able to make the leap himself to say, these are wonderful ways to treat my children, and wonderful ways to communicate with my children, and wonderful ways to optimize my relationship with my children. I think they'd work well if I worked with my wife on this. So it's that same concept. And I know I keep talking about it, bring it always home, but how many times do people go to Google, YouTube, or the bookstore, or your friends, and say, I really want to know how to feed my kids well, or I want to parent them the best way, or what do I do that's different between boys and girls? And we kind of dwell on, how do I really be the best parent I can be? But when's the last time people went and said, how can I be the best spouse? How can I optimize this relationship? How can I make this work really well? Right.
Unless they're in crisis.
Right. And there's an interesting statistic out there that there are people who actually seek counseling when they're go to the doctor for when they're feeling really bad in their relationship. It takes them 6 years of pain Can you imagine if it took you 6 years of whatever, of your heartbeat racing heart, or some symptom, physical symptom, you said, I'm just going to sit on this for 6 years and hope it gets better and ignore it or not worry about it or not speak about it. But by the time 6 years goes, you're really in trouble. Whatever's causing that physical problem is really problematic.
So what you're saying is, in the same way that it would be bad to have a physical ailment that you let sit for 6 years, it would also be bad to let your marriage ailment sit for 6 years.
Right.
And that's the statistic.
Right.
Okay.
And there could be some stuff that you could do earlier on by going to a marriage education course and just tuning something up.
Right.
And that slight headache could go away with a couple of Advil, right? Sure. But if you've got a brain tumor growing in there and you just keep going, and you keep ignoring it, it's going to be problematic after 6 years of ignoring it.
Makes sense.
It does make
Wendy
sense.
is the woman of analogies.
I am. It's so true. It's so true. There's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to say, yes, she is. It's been frequently said of me. Yeah.
Well, what I loved were his 3 essentials for a good marriage. 3 essentials. And he didn't make it simple like this, but I'm going to simplify it for you. There are 3 C's, okay? There's commitment to growth and change. There's communication, which you want to make better. And there's conflict management. Okay?
Perfect.
So 3 C's.
Yep. Easy.
Easy to remember.
Yep.
Commitment to growth and change, communication, make it better, and conflict management.
Right. And he didn't say this, but another one of our guests talked about the fact that we're perfectly comfortable with growth and change when it's about our children.
Yes.
We embrace it, we celebrate it, we're excited about it. We don't want our kids to be the same at age 10 that they were at age 2. We don't want them to crawl around and be in diapers when they're 10. We don't want them to be, crawling into our lap when they're 17. We want them to differentiate themselves and be strong young men and women. But we don't embrace change when it comes to our relationships. We think, why are you all of a sudden soft when you used to be my Mr. Tough guy or whatever? Name your tune. But that was very interesting. And so that commitment to growth and change as being foundational to a healthy marriage is really so key and overlooked.
But I think what's important about commitment to growth and change and recognizing it is also finding ways to support the changes in your spouse. So if for instance, I've gone through a lot of changes over this last year as I've left one type of job, which is being a school teacher, to being an entrepreneur. And my husband has been incredibly supportive, even though it's been a scary process in many cases, and lots of days are a little scary. Is this really going to work? Are we going to make it? And he's been totally committed to helping me grow and change. And so for that, I'm eternally grateful. But there are a lot of couples where they might really struggle with that. If the wife is suddenly finding a new group of friends, either from work or from you name it, the hood, or the kids' friends. How often do we become friends with our kids' friends, even though they may not be the people we choose?
Their parents
would have chosen.
Right.
So if the wife is finding things that are changing for her, it's great to have the husband support. And if you're a wife and your husband is going through some major changes, what will it take for you to support him and not feel threatened? And I think that's the key. When somebody's growing and changing and you find that you're not supporting, think about what your physical state is. What's it doing to your stomach? What's it doing to your throat? And I guarantee you it's because you're afraid of something. So ask yourself, what am I afraid of? How would his change affect me? In which ways? Boy, we got to sit down and talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the stress, I was thinking, when you were talking about that, I was thinking about the cortisol levels that we've talked about with you. That tears at our health. And when you're not in a good
affects
space,
us on a deep cellular level.
Yes.
That kind of stress, all those little stresses affect our health. And then we have a lot of chronic illness in this country, in the world now, and part of what's causing that is the stress that we're under, and these conflicts that we're not resolving, and the evolution of relationships that we're not recognizing. And I think sometimes too, and you expect your child, as your example, to not be in diapers at 10 and to be different when they're a teenager because they're growing up. But I think maybe somehow we feel like when you grow into adulthood, like the change and growth stops, or you've become fully realized. I don't know at what age, but but become fully realized. We're consistently, constantly in that evolution of ourselves. So, of course, your dynamic in your relationship is going to change as you stay together longer.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have to expect that. And he said, the ability, the conflict management, ability to deal with the inevitable.
Yes.
The inevitable fact that you're going to have anger and conflict in your relationship, and
you have to know, you have to be equipped, as Wendy would say, in order to be able to handle that.
Right.
So how do you get equipped?
Right.
You take classes, you read some books or articles, you find a coach. Yeah. We're all big on finding coaches in this group for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Who doesn't need a coach? And if that means a coach for your marriage relationship, do it.
Yeah, short term. I'm not talking about for the rest of your days, but right.
Yeah. Well, if you want it for the rest of your days, that's okay too.
Yeah.
But you don't have to think of it that way. It doesn't have to be years of deep therapy. It just has to be coaching on some great skills. A wellness approach to marriage, like I talk about a wellness approach to your health. Don't wait till you get sick, because if you're sick, that means you've been developing disease for a long, long time. You just haven't
by the time it shows up.
By the time it shows up, or don't wait till your kids won't ever listen to you, and you're always fighting all the time. We need coaches. They're just so helpful. People succeed in a job if they have a good mentor, right? If they're just given
it's like a coach
the job and say good luck, right? As we were talking about with Debbie the other day about when her first teaching experience was, there you go, here's your classroom, and she had to figure it all out on her own. So it's much, much harder to succeed. And it's much easier when you have a coach, somebody who's experienced, somebody who's made the mistakes, so that you don't have to make all the mistakes. I mean, it's a shortcut.
Like different ones.
It's a shortcut. Yeah.
You don't have to make the same ones.
Right, exactly. Why not learn from somebody else's experience so you can, fully enjoy your relationship, your health, any of those things more fully.
Yeah.
That was really articulate.
And then,
enjoy fully, more fully.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So that's the growth and change, and the communication, which is key. Just being able to communicate better, and we've talked about this in some other episodes. I know we'll continue to talk about it, because I know I need a daily reminder on how to be a good communicator, right? And that is to listen. Oh, and he actually talked about that. He says, what are the things?
4 steps.
Yeah, the 4 steps. In order to show understanding. You need to listen with strong interest. And as far as I'm concerned, that means really connecting with somebody, meeting their eyes.
Looking them in the eye.
Really important to me. Gently, not in a way that will...
Penetrating, like...
Yeah.
Not staring them
down. Malevolent or anything like that. But, if you can soften your face and soften your eyes and look somebody in the eyes and look genuinely interested in what they're doing.
Not checking your cell phone.
Not checking your cell
phone. Your computer,
your
iPad, or whatever you have.
Yeah.
I think that's a common...
It
thing
is
now, because we're so attached to our technology that our listening has lessened.
My husband says that to me a lot.
I'm guilty of it.
You didn't hear what I just said. You're staring at your phone. You didn't hear what I just said. Oh my gosh.
My husband will say to me, "I'm going to wait till you put your phone down."
Yes. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So to listen in a way that shows strong interest in what that other person is saying, and to become the other person. That's like that's the basic thing of being empathetic.
Empathetic, yep.
Right.
Showing empathy.
And for me, that's yes. However, it's really important for the person who's becoming the other, who's doing the listening, is to say to themselves, it's okay for me to just see the world from so-and-so's eyes, but I don't have to agree with how they see it and how they arrived at their conclusions. Because people hold themselves back from being totally empathetic if they feel like I'm never gonna see that mountain. All I see is molehills, and I'm never gonna see it. But just say, what's it like to see that as a mountain? That's fascinating. Yeah. That's interesting. Must make your heart race when you think that issue's a mountain.
And then you say, wow, that must be really frustrating for you.
Right.
That must be really hard for you.
It wouldn't be for me.
Yeah.
But it is for you. But you don't even have to say that. But yeah.
I wouldn't say that.
I wouldn't say that. Yeah.
But that's the stance that you can take in order to feel safe to go there.
Yeah.
Right.
That must be really hard for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You probably didn't like that when they said that to you, right? That must have been something that made you angry.
Right. And it sounds very prescriptive, and to a degree it is prescriptive.
Yeah, but it works.
But it works. Exactly. If you need to take the antibiotics as a prescription, then take them. If you need to go through this kind of stilted conversation in order to kind of turn down the volume on the anxiety and the anger in the household, take the medicine and do it.
Yeah.
It's very simple. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the third part of
Those 4
showing
steps.
understanding is to name the thoughts, feelings, concerns, and desires, which is what we were just talking about, and expressing it. And this is great for your spouse. This is great for, any relationship you have. This is especially important when you're talking to kids, and I'll just throw that in there, because they don't know how to articulate what they're feeling yet. And honestly, there are some adults who don't know how to articulate what they're feeling.
Absolutely.
So if you are able to help them move to that articulation stage, then by all means do it.
It's making me laugh because years ago when my stepsons were little, 4 and 6 or whatever, I won't say the name of it, but a health plan had a refrigerator magnet that was on our refrigerator, and it had, I would say, 30 faces, and the faces were cartoony faces, and they had the description of the emotion. So happy, sad, confused, worried, snarky, whatever it was, and the faces were perfectly aligned. So we would point. So you're feeling, sad, or you're feeling mad, and the kids were able to look at the face and align themselves with that. So it was really key.
That's a good visual.
Yeah, it was really very helpful, and it helped. Like when you said adults, it helped my husband and I kind of isolate. Well, I'm not really mad at you, but I'm very frustrated. And you look at the frustrated face versus the mad face, and there was just a subtle difference that really captured the feeling. Like, I'm frustrated with you because you're not hearing me well, you don't understand, or you don't get it, or whatever. But I'm not mad at you.
We're going to have to go see if we can find that.
Yeah, it was really good. It was really good.
And then the key also for that too is he pointed out, don't give advice, and to repeat what the person has just said too. So those are good listening skills. And then
repeat or be able to paraphrase. And letting them know that you understand the essence of what the intention was.
Understanding.
Yeah.
And again, doesn't mean agreement.
Right.
It just means I understand.
Yeah. And do it. And then if you didn't understand, to be willing to make those corrections graciously.
Yes.
That's the fourth part. That was a good. Yeah.
The fourth part was to just accept when somebody says, "Nope, that's not what I said." You don't have to go, well, that's what just sit there and go, okay, so tell me again, what was it? And be gracious and course correct, because we're different. And you mentioned that you and your husband had gone to some premarital counseling, and you said the only thing that the person said to you to do was to repeat what the other person said, and how incredibly different. Doesn't that sound like the most basic of things? Like,
it does,
repeat English. But it's incredibly difficult. It really is. Or it's incredible how much bias we already have to what I think you're going to say, or what I think you really mean. I know that you're saying these English words, but what you really mean, no. I want you to repeat what I said. It can be challenging.
Yeah. And actually, there's an author whose book "Words Can Change Your Brain," I think is the name of it. It's by Mark Robert Waldman, who is a neuroscientist, and he has some wonderful ideas in there for communication. And one of the things that he points out, and we should probably see if we can get him as a guest at some point, one of the things that he points out is that after about 10 seconds, your brain switches off. So the other thing, in terms of listening to other people,
really,
and so the
10
idea,
seconds?
So the idea is, we talk too much, and so we need to minimize how much we say, which is why giving advice and starting to lecture and all that doesn't work for people, and so the idea is to state very succinctly what it is you want to say. And he actually has this great exercise where I speak up to 10 words. Can you understand me? Oh. And then now it's your turn. You have 10 words. I will take 10 words. No, I don't agree with. Well, I wish that.
Wow.
So you have 10 fingers. It's the 10-finger technique.
Wow.
And he has used this to help couples mediate, to help business people mediate.
Because you get right to the point.
You get right to the point.
You cut to the chase.
And he can help people solve problems in 20 minutes that would normally take hours.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
So is that why men are so much better at business? Because they get right to the point?
I wonder.
Well,
right?
There may be some businesswomen who would disagree with you about
competency.
Yeah, well, I shouldn't say men are better, but they're in more so in higher positions than women.
So
are.
I would flip it.
Thank you for correcting me and saying that, because I don't want to misrepresent what I'm really thinking, but that they hold higher positions more so. So it's just interesting, and I know that
gets into the whole glass ceiling thing,
right?
Which would be a good conversation at some point.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Well, I was just going to say I would flip it around to say, is business now become a domain of men because that's how men work and think and do.
And that might be an
So the
interesting way to
domain
look at
is
glass
not
ceiling.
because business is inherently malish. I think males have made business inherently malish.
Male. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Over time.
Yeah. So
I mean,
who
I
knows,
think
but-
certainly it's all improving because
Yes.
women are becoming more
Right.
powerful and
Yeah.
rising up in the workplace,
Right.
and it's definitely a positive all around for the
Rise
world.
up, sisters.
That's right.
That's right. That's right. Spoken as a true
Mount Holyoke grad.
Mount Holyoke
Yes.
grad. That's
Yes.
right. Yeah. And he mentioned an interesting video that I want to look up. The Della and Christopher video. I'm going to have to look it up on YouTube out of the PrEP program, which stands, I'm not going to tell you what it stands for. I'm not going to remember it accurately. But Scott Stanley and Howard Markman out at the University of Denver are two social scientists who specifically study marriage relationships. And so they've done some, so they taped evidently Della and Christopher having a conversation and using some sort of a prescriptive way of breaking down the conversation so that they could empathically listen to one another and sit in one another's shoes and come to a more peaceful agreement than they might have if they'd just been arguing their point from either side.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to look up Della and Christopher.
I just think that's so important is to be empathic and try to put yourself in the other person's place. What are they thinking? What are they feeling? And if you don't know, ask them. You know, I noticed that you tend to get really upset whenever I do such and such. Can you explain to me why that upsets you? There's no
Right.
reason you can't ask.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
So, but we are running out of time right now.
Yeah.
You know, but I thought it was a really fascinating conversation. That he's extremely articulate and very helpful, and like he said, he had very specific points. And I think in general, you know, from a lot of our conversations, is that we're really working towards a shift towards wellness. You know, and wellness is, you know, coaching early on with marriage, with parenting relationships, with your health, and how to put yourself in optimal wellness in any of those situations.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that's come to pass in working with Mighty Married Moms is some clarity for me about what it is that I do as a marriage educator. And, you know, I show married moms how to move from a soul draining to a soul satisfying marriage relationship. That's what I do. And we all have our particular things that we do, but this particular segment was on relationships and marriage, and that's what I do. I'm over at connectagain.org. And Debbie, where are you these days?
YouCanRaiseGreatKids.com.
Yeah.
And my health coaching is allwellbreaksloose.com.
Yep.
And you can find all this information on our website, mightymarriedmoms.com.
Yes. Right.
So thank you so much for joining us today. Have a fabulous day. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Mighty Married Moms. Tune in twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays to meet fascinating and inspiring guests who will help you create the life you've always wanted.
You can find these episodes and special gifts just for you at mightymarriedmoms.com, as well as a link to our Facebook community,
where we continue the conversation around the kitchen table. Please also help share the love by leaving a review on iTunes. We'll see you next time.